The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, all. Now we are playing ICAI motto song. I request all the participants to put their right hand on their heart.
Constant.
Now I request Chairman of Ahmedabad branch, CA Fenil Shah, under whose able leadership we all are able to unlock ourselves and able to hear Dr. Girish Ahuja sir. CA Fenil Shah. Thank you. Fenil bhai mute cho.
Thank you, Kishan bhai. The speaker of the day and with respected senior faculty, Dr. C.A. Girish Ahuja sir, our own Central Council member, C. Aniket Talati, the chairman of AES branch, Anand branch, Bhavnagar branch, Gandhidham branch, Bhuj branch, Jamnagar branch, Bharuch branch, the chairman of Directors Committee of Ahmedabad branch, C.S. Sunil Sangvi, the secretary, C. Vishen Shah, and the members from all over the area. I welcome you all to this first day of second direct text series on the branch of WRC of ICAI. Friends, apart from this direct text series, today evening, we are also starting with the RERA webinar series. And friends, this series is not just for information, but this series is to train the chartered accountants so that apart from our normal routine practice, we can also inculcate the knowledge of RERA and we can also start as a RERA practitioner. And I'm highly obliged and grateful to share with you that the Gujarat chairman, Dr. Amarjit Singh, is going to join us in the inaugural session and is going to address us. So I request all the members to take the utmost benefit of the same. Second, friends, we are also having the GST audit and GST return webinar series to start. So I would request also all to take the benefit of the same. Taking a minute to share with you, friends, we all members are taking utmost benefit of webinars organized by us. But for our office to grow in an overall manner, it is also pertinent that our article assistants and staff are also updated and upgraded with all the knowledge series which are coming up. Also. So today, group of office so that assistance of your office we had very good response to Direct Series 1. After that, we launched one booklet, Gyan Manthan, so that all those participants who couldn't attend that can also take the benefit of the same. And now today we are having Direct Text Series 2, getting an overwhelming response of more than 900 participants. Again, the same tradition of having the summary notes will continue and you will get the benefit of the same. And we have also created WhatsApp groups. So whatever queries you have, you can post in that WhatsApp group. And at the end, Sunil Bhai will take those relevant queries and Girish Ahuja not taking much of the time. I again welcome Girish Ahuja sir. Thank you, sir, for coming and addressing this. now I request our own Central Council member, C. Aniket Talati, to have his opening remarks.
Thank you very much. My compliments and congratulations, first of all, to the chairman of Ahmedabad branch, Fenil Bhai, Secretary Bishan Bhai, for leading the way and organizing so many programs of professional relevance. I think direct tax has always been the bread and butter practice, as we like to call it, for chartered accountants. And doing second series in this lockdown 2.0, I think a lot of compliments and kudos to you. And what is more important is that you have been able to get stalwarts, if I can say, the stars of our profession, starting with none other than, the opening batsman, if I can call you that, sir, for the first day, Dr. Girish Ahuja, just his name on the brochure has ensured 1,000 registrations for us in this digital mode. I believe it will probably be the highest ever registration on such. So great going to the team. My compliments for organizing these two series to my dear friend and chairman of the Direct Tax Committee, Sunil Bhai, who is also working day and day night to make sure how we can give best direct tax knowledge sharing to all our members. I also acknowledge the presence of all branch chairmen of Gujarat. It's great unity that you are all showing by organizing these programs together. And rather than functioning in silos, I think as one unit, we are all able to organize these seminars. I can only share with you, friends, that it is my pleasure to digitally welcome Girish Ahuja sir to Ahmedabad. Sir, आप यहाँ फ्लाइट से आए हैं, ट्रेन से आए हैं, पर आज लैपटॉप या आईपैड से पहली बार अहमदाबाद में आपका स्वागत करते हैं, sir.
Thank you.
And I hope, sir, this new technology, which actually Mother Nature has forced upon us to, accept willingly or otherwise, is now going to probably lead the way. And I can only share with you, friends, a simple example at how in the institute level also we have realized the importance of this digital medium for learning. We had the digital learning hub where we were giving 2 structured hours. It has been increased to 10 structured CPE hours, but that is for the seminars. What is even more heartening, friends, for me to share you is that just 2 days ago, we started with the first ever forensic certificate course online. And the response received was so phenomenal that we right now have almost 8 batches of FAFD planned online with 100 participants each. Similarly, the INDAS, the ASB, and the leadership was taken by my council colleague Sanjeev Singhal-ji, who is the vice chairman of ASB, and the entire INDAS certificate course has now gone online. And yesterday we have received 1,300 registrations, payments for the certificate course. So we will have 13 batches of INDAS running. And more importantly, the cost of the batch, which used to be 30,000 earlier, is now merely 7,000 rupees. So the cost has gone down considerably. And the main reason for that is that the faculties are no longer traveling. We are no longer incurring the hotel costs for the participants to stay. And what money used to go actually to the hotels for feeding the participants and stay cost is now being utilized to save costs from chartered accountants. I think it's a great move in the digital era. And I'm sure as we move along, more and more steps will be taken by the institute and by all of us to digitalize our office, our functioning, and the mode and medium through which we gain our knowledge. With these words, I once again, with folded hands and most respectfully, thank Girish Ahuja sir for acceding to our request and coming to Ahmedabad. Thank you, sir. We are all eager to listen to you. And I'm sure, sir, that Ahmedabad will continue to receive your blessings, guidance. Like you have always been a guiding force to the profession. I can share with you, friends, anything that we need on the income tax front that has to be worked with the government. Sir is always available. And sir, we always look forward to your guiding role for all of us. Thank you for all of you for your wide participation. And I give the best wishes to this webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you, Aniket Bhai. Now, request Chairman of Direct Tax Committee, Sundar Sanjay, to introduce us, sir.
I warm welcome ex-Guru CA Dr. Girish Ahuja sir, dignitaries on the dais, and all my seniors and friends who are attending the webinar. Today's topic, income tax provisions on relating to the charitable, and we know every year we find amendments in the budget for the charitable and the religious trusts. As such, the sections are, main sections are 11, 12 and 13. But the calculation provisions, the special provisions for the charitable and the religious trust is very much complicated. In this budget, the government have amended the provisions, and they have insisted all charitable trusts to re-register so that it can be digitized, it can be monitored by the government. The government has further asked to give the details of the donations so that it can be cross-verified with the claims of the donor in their income tax returns. We need to understand from the sir that always, sir, there is a confusion between that 15% of the income which is there in the for the exemption. Normally, most of the chartered accountants, we used to take the 15% of the gross receipts. There is always confusion between the 1023C and the 12AA, the charitable trust. Further, sir, there is a confusion that 85% of the income which has to be spent, whether we have to include the exempt income also, sir, or not. Sir, what are the provisions if the trust is dissolved? What to do for the capital asset of the trust? Whether we can sell off, whether we can dispose of, or we have to donate to other charitable trusts. So only 2-3 sections, but it is a complete book, we can say, the how to calculate and the special tax rates for the charitable and the religious trusts. Sir, I welcome you, and I am very much lucky to introduce it. It's difficult to introduce, sir, but still, sir, I would like to say, sir has completed 50 years for the chartered accountants. Sir has cleared the chartered accountancy in 1970. Sir is the president of the SRCC alumni, which is a very famous college, Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi. Everybody would like to study over there, and for many years. Sir has also done the PhD from the DU, that is the Delhi University. Sir is practicing chartered accountant and mainly in the field of the direct taxation, as we know. The sir was nominated by the government of India last year to redraft the income tax law. Sir was a member of that committee, and sir has given the report to the finance minister in the August 2019. Sir is also nominated by the government and the various companies as an independent director, as a member of the various committees. Sir is the author of over more than 25 books. He is published every year. Sir has delivered more than 3,200 lectures. And now the webinars every day, sir, is having 2 or 3 webinars every day. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir. And I request you, sir, to continue further, sir.
Thank you, Sunil Sanghvi. Chairman, Central Council member and a very young and energetic Central Council member, Aniket Talati. Chairman of the Ahmedabad branch, Fenil Shahji. Secretary Vishen Shahji, and of course, Directors Committee Chairman, Sunil Sanghvi. And the chairman of the various branches of the Gujarat, I'm told they are also there. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you one thing in this case. He rightly pointed out there are section 11, 12, 13, which are for charitable or religious trust. But there is one more section, section 1023C. Those basically, maybe it is for Prime Minister Relief Fund and any other fund, but there are 2 types of institutions where we are very concerned. That is university, college or educational institutions, and hospital and medical institutions. Those are also covered under section 1023C. So what really happens is we had a choice earlier to go under 1023C or to go under 1112 for claiming exemption. Let me to start with, because he raised a point that there is already a confusion between 1023C and 12AA, and secondly 1112, and secondly from next year, I mean, from 1st April 2020, you have to apply, re-register. He said, you cannot take benefit under both. Earlier, you could have approval under 1023C also, and you could also take registration under 12AA. It was simultaneously going on. And you could change your option every time when you are filing a return. Sometimes you wanted to go under 20 to that also. But that is going to be stopped. That's why I'll come to that. Now let me tell you what are covered under section 11-12. We have a definition of they are charitable or religious trust. We do not have a definition of a religious trust, but we do have a definition of charitable purpose. What is a charitable purpose? Section 2, clause 15 defines charitable purpose. It says charitable purpose includes relief to the poor, education, yoga, medical relief, and then it says preservation of environment, watershed or wildlife, or preservation of monuments, and advancement of any other object of general public utility. This is the definition of a charitable purpose. I'm not saying religious. Religious trusts are always for religion, for propagating religion. They may be also doing charity, but basic is they are propagating religion. But charitable cannot propagate religion. So charitable purpose, now you have seen in this section 2, clause 15, there is education also, and there is medical relief also. For this education and medical relief, you have two alternatives. One is to go under 1023C. Another is to go under 11 and 12 exemption. What are the difference between C and 11 and 12 exemption? Please try to understand. I'll take one by one. In case of 1023C, you get approval. You apply to the Commissioner of Income Tax Exemption for approval, not for registration. It is approval. You say, what is the difference? I'll tell you. Under 11-12, you have to go for registration, and you have to apply under 12AA. Now it will be 12AB because of new law. You have to apply for registration. For approval, you have to apply under 50. Registration, you have to apply under Form 10A. 10A. What is the difference between approval and registration? When you file a return of income and you have got registration for taking benefit under 11 and 12, note it, the AO, when making scrutiny assessment, if he finds that you are not carrying out the object for which you are formed, or you are misusing the fund, or you are not keeping the fund under 11.5 and all that, the exemption may not be given. By whom? By the assessing officer. Assessing officer. He has to take a decision whether to give exemption or not by assessing officer. That's a different thing. If you don't agree with that order, you go for appeal, but that is a different thing. 1023C. The assessing officer, if he says that you are misusing funds, you are not carrying out the object which we are formed and all that thing, in that case, before completing the assessment, he will have to write to the Commissioner of Income Tax Exemption who had given that approval to kindly withdraw the approval of this trust. Kindly withdraw the approval. Then the Commissioner of Income Tax will give a hearing to the SSC. After giving hearing, the Commissioner of Income Tax will have to decide whether to withdraw the approval or to continue with. If the Commissioner of Income Tax says nothing doing, approval continues, then AO shall be duty bound to give exemption. But if that says no, it is to be withdrawn, then AO will not give you exemption. Where it is written, there is a proviso under section 143(3) saying that AO cannot refuse exemption under 1023. There are other sections also, but I'm taking 1023C. If he finds that there is some misuse object, AO will have to refer the case to the Commissioner of Exemption who had given that approval, and Commissioner of Income Tax and in turn will give a hearing to you and then finally decide whether approval to be withdrawn or not to be withdrawn. If it is not to be withdrawn, AO will be duty bound to give you exemption. If it is to be withdrawn, AO will not give you exemption. So this is the first difference between 10 and what you call 11-12 exemption. Second difference. I'm talking about up to 31st-20 because I've got it changed now. In the case of 11-12, you know that a voluntary contribution with a specific direction that it will form part of the corpus of the trust is exempt under section 11 subsection 1 clause B. It is fully exempt. You don't have to spend 85 or anything. It is fully exempt under 11(1)(d), provided you are registered under 12AA. But in case of 1023C till 31st March 2020, please note, corpus donation was not exempt. It was not exempt, meaning thereby you had to spend 85%, 85% same exemption. Otherwise, it was not exempt. So corpus donation, yes, from 1st April 2020, the Finance Act 2020 has now inserted explanation under proviso 3. There is explanation under proviso 3 of section 1023C stating that from 1st April 2020 you will be allowed exemption under section of corpus donation, meaning thereby you need not spend 85% to claim exemption. This I have got it done because you know that you will now be able to have only one approval or registration. So this is done. Next difference, a very important. You know, there is an explanation under section 11(1), and that is called explanation 2. I have a clause 2. That explanation says that if you are following a mercantile system and there is an income which has become due, it has accrued, and you have taken it to your income and expenditure account, but it has not been actually received during the year. I can take example. Suppose you have got a fixed deposit done for 5 years, compound interest, 5 years. Very first year, the interest will become due. Since you are following mercantile system, you will have to take that income. If you are following cash system, then there is no need. But if you are mercantile following system, you will take, once you take that income, but you have not received the interest. The law says you can give an undertaking, and that is in form number 9A before the due date of return under 139(1), stating that give that form 9A digitally, that I'll spend this income in the year in which I receive it, or even year following that. 5 years plus 1 year you will be allowed. Then it will be treated as deemed application of this year. If you have not received it, you have given an undertaking under form 9A, you can claim the exemption this year. But in the 6th year, 5th year is the expiring date, 1 more year. If the 6th year you are not able to spend it, you don't apply it, then the entire amount, you will not be allowed 15% from here. Entire amount will become taxable under section 11 subsection 1 clause B. You will be section 11(1)(b). You will have to be paid. There is one more in this, that suppose you are not able to spend this money, apply this money for any other reason. Let's say any other reason is you got some donation on 28th March, 29th March. It was difficult to spend by 31st March. You can always give a reason that I'll spend it next year. So that explanation is also there, that you will spend it next year. Although you are going to spend next year, but it will be treated as deemed application of this year. This year. Yes, if you don't spend next year, this will be deemed application of this year. These two types of benefit you have by following form 9A before the due date of return, which is only there in the case of those who are covered under 11 and 12. In 1023C, this explanation is not there. Even after amendment, it is not there. Meaning thereby, you cannot give an undertaking that I'll spend it next year. Meaning thereby, you cannot give an undertaking that I'll spend year in which I receive it or year following that. So that point is also there. Third difference, in case of 11-12, you give audit report in form number 10B. 10B. And in case of 1023C, you give audit report in 10BB. 10BB. That is also the difference which is there. Now, I'm going to talk to you very important thing. 1023C section, I'm not talking about 11-12 now, has section 10 clause 23C has many sub clauses relating to educational and hospitals. So section 1023C sub clause 3IAB. 3IAB means IB. Section 1023C sub clause 3IAC. Section 1023C sub clause 3IAD. Section 1023 sub clause 3IAE. Then we have IV, section YV. Then we have two more. Section 1023C sub clause VI, Romans VI. And then section 1023C sub clause VI capital A. These are the clauses, sub clauses which I would like you to understand. Although you know it, but you are not aware the sub clauses number. That's all. First clause, 1023C sub clause 3 IAB. Your educational institution, but not for making any profit, but for imparting education, shall be exempt if it is wholly or substantially financed by the government. Wholly or substantially financed by the government. Similarly, 1023C 3 IAC. Income of a hospital or medical institution, not for making profit, but for philanthropic purposes, this shall be exempt, provided it is wholly or financed by the government. Please note the word wholly is clear. Substantially financed means more than 50% grant, whether state government or central government. Please note, 50% grant has to be seen every year. It's not that last year you got more than 50, this time you got less than 50. No, you will not be under substantially financed. Each year is a separate year. 1023 3 IBAs. Then section 1023C 3 IAD and 3 IAE. Educational institution not for making profit but for imparting education whose gross receipts do not exceed 1 crore. The income of a hospital or a medical institution whose gross receipt does not exceed 1 crore. Here, and let me tell you, which I talked about 3 IB, 3 IAC, now ADA. Please note in these 4 sub clauses, whether you are government funded or you are less than 1 crore. Please note, there is no condition of spending 85%. There is no condition of any approval. There is no condition of any audit. Also, that you have to file return of income, which is mandatory. But please note, no approval to be taken. Even now also after amendment, no approval if you are less than 1 crore. No approval if you are a government financed or wholly financed by the government. No approval is required under Income Tax Act. Only thing is that you have to file a return of income. Now, IVV, these are notified charitable and religious institution. Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, they have given under V, but those are very small things. I'm coming to now VI and VIA. Income of a university or educational institution not for making profit but imparting education, whose gross receipts exceeds rupees 1 crore. That is VI, exceeds rupees 1 crore. And secondly, income of a hospital or medical institution not for making any profit but for philanthropic purposes, whose gross receipts exceed 1 crore. Please note, when I was comparing 1023C with 1112, these institutions, they are almost similar except the differences which I told you. They are almost similar except the differences which I told you. Because in the case of 11, 12. You can give an undertaking under Form 9A. I'll spend it next year, or I spend in the year in which I receive it or year following it is not here. Otherwise, the same principle, 15%, 85% to be spent. Everything is same when you are covered under. If you have more than 1 crore turnover and more than 1 crore for hospital, except one difference, and the major difference is explanation that you can't spend it next year or year in which you receive. But corpus donation, please note, it was earlier not exempt under 1023C. But since now you have to have only one type of approval or registration, you can't have both. I told them this is going, nobody will go for 1020. Corpus donation is not exempt. So therefore, they have very kindly amended this by bringing an amendment from the government amendment saying that corpus donation shall also be exempt if you are covered under 1023C. This is one. Now, this is one which I wanted to tell you. Corpus. Now, let me tell you. Sunil Sanghvi pointed out that you have to re-register yourself. Let me tell you, this was suggested by us in the direct tax income tax law which we are redrafting. But that was for a different reason. We have so many trusts which were registered maybe 50 years back, 60 years back, 40 years back, 30 years back, registration number, or they may be having approval number, but they do not have a certificate of registration or approval. And every time the AO says, produce the certificate of registration, how do I know that registration number is correct? Or they also do not have a record or certificate. So we said, let everyone try apply again. So please note, every charitable trust which is registered under 12AA or charitable trust which is approved under 1023C will have to apply once again in a simplified form. You are registered, you are approved, you have to apply afresh. Nothing will be asked. A simplified form has to be filled by you by 31st of August 2020. Please note, all of you here, when I came for budget session also I said, please note all trusts registered under 12AA or all trusts which are approved under 1023C will have to apply, which are already registered, for fresh registration under by applying under 12A. Apply under 12A, registration will be granted under 12AB now. AB. Apply. You have been given 3 months from 1st June, 31st August. Please apply by 31st August. Don't wait, and don't wait till the last day. If you do not apply, you station then you will be treated as unregistered tribe. No extension, nothing. So I'm all the time telling you, please apply by 31st August. Form is yet to be notified. It will be notified in a due course of time. Because of lockdown, it has not been yet done. Another point now. Earlier, you could apply under 1023C also, under 12AA also. Mind it. Now you will be either allowed approval under 1023C or you will be allowed registration under 12AA. Not have both. You cannot have. This is particularly only for charitable, those educational and hospitals, etc. For others, it is only 12AA. If you have more than one object, then it's 12AA. If it is an exclusive object of education or medical relief, then only you could go either 1023C or 12AA. But please note, decide before 31st August. If you have both these approval and registration, if you have both, apply only under one. You will not be allowed in two. Either 1023C go or go under 12AA if you have both 12AA. If you have one, but you want to go to other, then this you surrender and go for other. But yet you will apply later. So I'm telling you, please, everyone has to apply, but not both registration. Only one of these two will be there. And tell me, we had said only up to this. Now they have gone beyond that. Till today, till 31st March, registration or approval was permanent. You didn't have to apply again. But now, this new registration which you will be given or approval which you will be given will be valid for a period of 5 years. And you will have to get this registration renewed or approval renewed within at least prior to the expiry period of 5 years. 6 months prior to the expiry of 5 years. Means at least 4.5 months before that you will have to apply for fresh registration or fresh approval. At that time, lot of questions like new registration will be asked. But when you apply on 31st August, nothing will be asked. Second point, if you are a new registration or new approval you want, please note, first change. Earlier you could apply before the end of the previous year under 12AA, and under 1023C, you could apply up to 30th September after the end of the previous year. But please note now, if you want registration, you will have to apply new registration. You have to apply 1 month before the commencement of the previous year. Commencement of the previous year relevant to the assessment year for which you want exemption. Please note what I'm saying, that you will have to apply 1 month before, at least February, at least 1 month before of the commencement of the previous year, if you want an exemption for that previous year, which is relevant to assessment year. So please be careful, it is 1 month before. Second point, when you apply fresh, new time, this one, new, you don't have existing registration, new, whether 1023C or under 1112. Please note, it will be a provisional registration or provisional approval. It will not be permanent registration or provisional. It will be provisional registration or provisional approval. Wait. You will have to apply for permanent registration. Permanent means 5-year registration. If you have started the charitable activity within 6 months of the starting of the charitable activity, or at least 6 months prior to the expiry of 3 years, whichever is earlier. Provisional registration is going to be valid. How much? Maximum 3 years. But if you commence your charitable activity, so please within 6 months of the commencement of the charitable activity, or within at least 6 months prior to the expiry of 3 years, you will have to apply for permanent registration, which will be valid for 5 years. Provisional will not be allowed second time. It will be allowed only. This is also there. And there are people who say, sir, we have already made an application for registration or approval, but we have not got yet registration or approval. What will happen to that application? You need not apply fresh. That application will be merged as if it is a new application. And you will be given, please note, now provisional registration. That application pending, you will get provisional registration, and that provisional registration will be valid for a period of 3 years. That also, let me tell you. I'll come back to this again. Let me tell you now, 12AA has been changed to 12AB. 12AB, 12AA is now 12AB for registration, but 1023C remains the same. There is another point also as regard donation. I'll tell you a little later. Coming back. A point was raised by Sanghvi is we have a confusion about 15%, 85% you have to apply during the year, 50% you can accumulate. Sir, what is the meaning of 15%? Is it a gross receipt or if it is net income? Because the word is income, 15% of the income. Earlier there were a lot of difficulties. I used to say it is only income, net income. But people were taking 15% of gross receipt. It was not correct. Then after a lot of persuasion, I got the Form 7 changed. And Form 7 is notified. And when it is notified, it can be beneficial to us. In the Form 7, they have said 15% of the gross receipts. So it is 50% of the gross receipt which you can accumulate. So it is now in your favor. So don't bother about income. 15% of the gross receipt is allowed as accumulation. 15%, whether you are under 1023C or you are under 1112. 15% of the 85% you have to spend. Everyone knows. Like you also know section 11.2, which is also applicable for 1023C. If you want to accumulate more than 15%, you can do so. But under 1112, you could say, I will go next year. Then you have to file 9A. But here, if you don't want to file 9A, you wanted to accumulate for a longer period, you can go that I want to accumulate more than 15%. For that, you have to furnish a form number 10. Form number 10. And that should be furnished on or before the due date mentioned under 139(1). And even the return should also be furnished on or before the due date under 139(1). Otherwise, 11.2, whatever you have accumulated, that exemption will not be allowed. Please fill up Form 10A. It is applicable both for 1023C as well as for 1112. Fill up Form 10A, Form 10, if you want to accumulate more than 15%. But that form must be furnished. Earlier, there are so many decisions that at the time of assessment you can furnish. No, the law has been changed. That form must be submitted on or before the due date of furnishing the return of income under section 139(1). And secondly, the return should also be furnished on or before the due date under. If either of the condition is not satisfied, 11.2 will not be allowed to you. But you know that now for furnishing the return of income, the date is 31st of October. But wait, but for furnishing the audit report or furnishing the other document, not the report of a chartered accountant, the last date is, of course, 30th September 2020. But return can be filed up to 31st October 2020. You can file along with that form number 10. But it has to be filed on or before the due date of return. And this has to be filed electronically. Next point, that is 15%. You have to accumulate and you have to give maximum period of accumulation will be 5 years. And please note, this money has to be kept in a mode given under 11.5. If you don't give in a money under 11, become taxable. That amount will become taxable. 11.5 mode, you have to keep that money up. And in 5th year, if you are not able to spend, you are given 1 more year, that is the 6th year, to spend it. 5th plus 1 more. And if you don't spend by 6th year, that amount will be treated as your income. That amount will be treated as your income, which you have accumulated. You cannot donate out of this to anyone. You cannot donate. It is only when the trust is dissolved, then you can donate. Otherwise, you cannot donate this money to any other trust. Next point now. There are so many points which I want to tell you. First point is, there is a recent judgment. What happens is, suppose your gross receipt of this year is 3 crore. 3 crore. But yours 4 crore. Application of income is 4 crore. Application of income is 4 crore. You have spent 1 crore extra. Excess application over expenditure. Please note, earlier, there are so many judgments of the High Court that this 1 crore can be taken as an application of the next year. But the difficulty is the return of income nowhere shows this column, application of the next year. Even our 10B also not gives this. But there are so many, but they were always saying that we don't agree to the judgment and we will not give you this application, and that's why it was not in the form. But in 2018, a judgment has come. Subros Educational Society, CIT versus Subros, S-U-B-R-O-S, Educational Society, where the Supreme Court, when the SLP was filed, said there is no case in the merit, and in meaning thereby, excess application can be treated as the excess expenditure can be treated as application of next year because of this judgment. I think now the department will have to provide in the new a column for that, because it is a Supreme Court judgment. Earlier they were saying there is no Supreme Court judgment and we don't agree to that. They will have to. Next point. You know that he raised the point that there is an exempt income under section 10. Do I have to apply that exempt income? Or there is no need to apply that because it is totally exempt. You will not charge tax from me. Look here. If you are claiming exemption under 1112 or under 1023C, all income which are exempt under section 10, except 10(1), that is agricultural income. Except agriculture income, all income which are exempt under section 10, please note, will have to be applied for claiming exemption, why 8550, for claiming exemption under 1112 or claiming exemption under 1023C. You cannot say it is exempt. So where is the need brought in an explanation saying that you will have to apply? Another point of explanation. Earlier there was a dispute whether TDS to be deducted, and if the TDS is not deductible, whether you will be allowed deduction or not, because 40AI is only for business and we are not carrying on a business. Since we are not carrying on a business, so why should we have a 40IA? We normally don't have even tax audit. So why we have a 40IA? And then 40A3, payment exceeding 10 lakh should be made by way account pay check or account pay draft. Remember? Now let me tell you, they have said the provisions of section 40AIA and 40A subsection 3 and 3A shall mutatis mutandis will apply to the charitable trust also. Meaning their charitable trust will have to deduct TDS on the payment made, whatever is required under TDS chapter. And if you do not deduct the TDS and deposit on or before the due date of return, 30% of their expense will not be treated as application of an application of income. Secondly, even under 40A3, that is payment exceeding 10,000 should be by way of account pay check or account pay draft. Here also, in the case of trust, payment should be by way of account pay check or account pay draft. Otherwise, this will not be treated as application of income if the amount exceeds 10,000 rupees. That condition has also come here also. Then another point, which is now under 12AB, if you have modified the objects, modified an object, and which are not covered in your object, in that case, please note, you will have to apply for fresh registration within 30 days of the modification. Within 30 days of the modification, you will have to apply a fresh under 12AB or maybe 1023C. You will have to apply a fresh. Otherwise, your registration gone, cancelled. This is another point which I wanted to tell you. You already know now depreciation into charity, because capital expenditure itself we treat as an application of income. So there is no question of depreciation. Either don't treat capital expenditure as an application of income, then you can claim depreciation. Nobody would like to do that, but that will be the point. Next point. The point which also comes in that what I wanted to tell you is, next point was application of income. Let me explain you a very important point. Please try to understand. You have taken a 2 crore during the year for purchase of a building, and you have purchased the building for 3 crores. 1 crore your own money, capital fund, 2 crore borrowed, and you have purchased asset for 3 crore. What is your application of income in this case? People say 3 crore. This is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. First point, loan is not an income. Loan is not an income. So although in your balance sheet, you will say asset 3 crore and in the liability side, loan 2 crore. But please note, for application purposes, it is only 1 crore, which you utilize your money. And when you repay the loan and even interest on the loan, that will be treated as application of income. Repayment of loan which you have taken will be treated as application of income. You don't have to touch your balance sheet. It is accounting entry is 3 crore asset side. But application you return 50 lakh, also paid interest, let's say of 10 lakh, 60 lakh will be the application of next year. Similarly, of the future year. Please don't commit mistake saying that a loan is an income. Loan is never an income. Application will be only the amount which you have utilized yourself. It's not an application. You need to keep a mind of this thing also. Coming to now anonymous donation. You know, these colleges or these hospitals or medical institutions were opened long back by converting the black money into white. Although they don't know that the trust is not for public at charge, it is public at large. It is not for a particular person. If I create a trust charitable, don't think it is mine. It is not mine. Maybe I name the trust under my name or my father's name, college, educational institution. Doesn't make any difference. It does not belong to me. I may be a trustee, I may be a founder, I may be an author, but it does not belong to me. It belongs to public at large. But we always say, this is my college, this is my college. This is something not there. This is not your college. It is public at large. Let me tell you. Now what they happened at that time, they said, we have received donation. The AO used to ask, please give me the details of the donation. He said, I don't have the detail. Somebody has put in the hundi. I don't know the detail. The AO used to say, I will treat it as an income. And I used to say, please treat it as an income. We have already treated it as an income, but we applied that income for capital expenditure, revenue expenditure. So therefore it is an exemption. So where is the question of source to be told to you? There is no need. But now there is an anonymous donation. The chapter has come. Anonymous donation. Section 115 BBC. Where the total income of a trust includes anonymous donation. Anonymous donation means donation where you do not know the donor, address of the donor, or PAN number of the donor. Somebody has put it in the hundi. Somebody has given you cash. He's not giving you name and everything. You say, write any name. You don't know the name of the donor, address, and PAN number. It is anonymous donation. If your total income includes anonymous donation, it says anonymous donation shall be taxable at the rate of 30% by amount exceeding. If the anonymous donation exemption is up to 1 lakh or 5% of the total donation, there is no tax, that will not be treated as taxable. But if it is more than, anonymous donation is more than 5% of the total donation or 1 lakh, whichever is more, then the balance will be taxable at a special rate of 30% under section 115 BBC, anonymous donation. Now, since I'm talking about donation, let me tell you, please note corpus donation is exempt, but corpus donation should be with a specific direction that it will form part of the corpus of the trust. There should be a direction from the donor that it will form part of the corpus of the trust. You should take a letter from. That is corpus donation. Please now, coming to other donation. Let me tell you, when I say anonymous donation, it includes corpus also. But corpus is normally, name is there. But wait a minute, coming back. Now what is the new rule? I have seen people misusing ATG. Now the rule is that if a trust has a ATG section exemption, first thing, you are already registered under ATG. You are having permanent registration. Please note, by 31st August, you will have to again apply for re-registration under ATG. You have to take approval under ATG for once again existing. They will give you a simplified form, apply that. Now the registration which will be given to you will be valid for a maximum period of 5 years. It will be valid for 5 years. And you will have to go for renewal at least 6 months before the expiry of 5 years. Even in the case of donation ATG, you will have to apply new. And if you are applying first time, you will be given provisional registration, which will be valid for a period of 3 years. Explain. Now another point. These charitable trusts have been told that you are registered under ATG. Please note, you have to prepare a statement. A statement of the giving the name of the donor, address of the donor, PAN number of the donor. And that statement will be furnished on the portal of the income tax, maybe quarterly or yearly, yet to be notified in a prescribed manner. They will tell you. The form has also not come. What is that statement, whether it will be quarterly or maybe yearly, they will let you know. But you will have to prepare a statement of donation receipt. And that statement must be put on the government portal, giving the complete detail as you do for TDS. You have to put it on that portal electronically. Look here, that amount which detail which I did will automatically be auto-populated in the what you call this your portal, whatever your site you have registered with the income tax department, e-filing, it will come to your pre-filled, it will come in your return. Please note, unless and until your name is there, you will not get deduction under ATG. Wait also, if you have given a donation, but unfortunately your name is not there in that list and it has not been auto-populated to your account, then in that case, please note, you will have to write to the donee to kindly rectify the statement which he has filed, because your name is not appearing in that statement. He will have to rectify. Let me tell you, this was for me when I'm giving donation, that my name should be there. And if I did not there, I will not get deduction. From charitable trust point of view, they had to file that return, a quarterly statement or maybe a yearly statement. And if they don't follow, they don't file, there is a fee which has been imposed, 200 rupees per day for each day of failure. And there is also a penalty which has been imposed, which will be minimum 10,000 rupees and maximum 1 lakh rupees. This is for not filing that statement which is yet to be notified. But now another point which will put you into difficulty. I've told you anonymous donation. Now look here, anonymous donation. Look here, you have received donation during the year 5 crore. You have given the names of all the persons who have given you donation, and that amounts to 3 crore. When you filed a statement of 3 crore, but your income and expenditure says 5 crore, then the AO will ask, what about the balance 2 crore? You cannot say, because anonymous is allowed only up to 20%. That will be 1 lakh, but you have received 2 crore, then he will say these will be taxable amount exceeding 5% of the total donation as anonymous donation. So please note, be careful. You will have to give the complete detail. Otherwise, you will be liable to pay tax. I'm telling you, you will not be allowed exemption, because you are giving the detail of only 3 crore. When you have received 5 crore, they will say pay on the 2 crore. I will not say exact 2 crore. A 5% total donation, 25 lakh will be allowed, and the balance you will have to pay tax at the rate of 30%. This is anonymous. The question which always comes, can a trust carry on any incidental business, any trade, commerce or business? Let me tell you, please note, in the case of charitable purpose, I told you charitable purpose include relief to the poor, education, medical relief, yoga, preservation of environment, watershed, water life or forest, or preservation of monument and other places, and advancement of any other object of general public utility. Let me tell you about anonymous. I have to give you one more. Advancement of any other general public utility. 5 items. That is, if you are providing relief to the poor, or if it is education, if it is yoga, if it is what you call medical relief, rather 6, if it is preservation of environment, or if it is preservation of monuments and places. In these 6 cases, there is no restriction. You can do a business which is incidental to the activities carried on by the. So you can do any trade or commerce which is incidental to the attainment of the objective of the trust of the trust. This is a third judgment, Supreme Court. Attainment of the objective of the trust, you can do any trade or commerce, separate accounts. So that you have to maintain separate accounts. And if that amount, trade commerce, exceeds 1 crore, you will have to get that tax audit also. Tax audit not for charity purpose, but this commerce or trade commerce, this. But please note, so your education, you can do sell books, you can start canteen, you can do any other incidental activity, run hostel, run canteen, sell books, sell uniform, do transport, but you will get it audited. Second point, 8, for education, for medical relief, for this medical relief, a hospital has a dispensary in the hospital premises, no problem. This is incidental activity for the attainment of the objective of trust allowed. There is no restriction of 20%. But wait, when you are registered under advancement of any other object of general public utility, in that case, the law says, provided that advancement of any other object of general purpose utility shall not be called a charitable purpose if the trust is carrying on any trade, business or commerce, or rendering services to any trade, business or commerce, whether for any remuneration or consideration or for any fee. So that's basically the advancement of general public utility. They say up to then say provided that if the gross receipt, this gross receipt from this business activity does not exceed 20%, then you will be given exemption. Please note, it is only for when you are registered under advancement of any other object of general public utility. When you are under education or medical or yoga or preservation of environment, etc., there is no restriction that you cannot carry on any commercial activity if it is allowed, if it is incidental to the attainment of the objective of the trust, and separate accounts are maintained. But if in this case, if you are covered under advancement of any other general public duty, kindly note 20% of the gross receipt. If the commercial activity does not exceed 20%, then so you will get exemption. Otherwise, your registration will be withdrawn. Your registration itself will be withdrawn. Let me explain to you this. This is very important, that your registration will itself be withdrawn. So this was also a very important point which I wanted to tell you, that please note that you can carry on incidental activity provided it is incidental to the attainment of the objective of the trust. But if you are covered under advancement of any general public duty, that this amount should not exceed 20%. You also know that you have to apply for registration now under 12AB. Earlier, so apply for registration under 12A, but you are granted registration under 12AB. Make an application. Now, although there is a judgment now will be of no use, but the time period is there. There was a judgment. Okay, what about that I applied for registration and he has not granted me registration, although there is a maximum period of 6 months in which the registration has to be granted. Earlier there was judgment, but no judgment of Supreme Court. Now the judgment of Supreme Court has come that it will be treated as deemed registration. And if no other activity done by commissioner or no reply has come to you, no query has been raised from you, and a period of 6 months has passed, then it adventure sports or this is the case Society for Adventure Sport or any other activity, sport activities, that is their education and other activities. So this judgment is there, but only difficulty arises is that you don't have the registration number, and how will you file a return when you don't have a registration number? That is the point which is always there. Then after 6 months, you should go to the commissioner and ask for registration number, showing him the Supreme Court judgment that it is treated as deemed registration. That is the point. Next point now. There may be few others point, but I want to talk to you something more also. every charitable trust has to file a return. 11-12, if you are claiming exemption under 11-12, you file a return under section 139(4)(a), capital A. But if you are claiming exemption under 1023(c), then you file a return under section 139(4)(c). 4C, same thing, same time, 4C. And then you have to file a return on or before the due date mentioned under 139(1). That is the return which has to be filed by the charitable trust. And they file the return in form number 7. But please note, unless you are registered or approved, you don't get any exemption in this. I forgot to tell you about what you call anonymous donation. Anonymous donation is taxable beyond a limit in the hands of a charitable trust. But for a religious trust, anonymous donation is not there. Registered trust can take anonymous donation because in the case of God, God always get Gupta Dan. You would pay to God, I would say many other Dan, but God gets that because to God, 90% you don't, people don't give white money, they give black money to the God, saying that this 100 rupees I've earned, your share is 3%, 5%. Take this share of 5 and please save by 95%. Please, God, do that. And God says, Tathastu. Sometimes you do for credit also. And God says, Tathastu. You say, I will, please pass me in CA examination. Then only I will come and see you. And then you pay the God donation. So God is a partner in everything with you. He always says, Tathastu. But you know that karam aapke. You are doing wrong thing, you will be. God says, I have not committed any wrong. You are doing a wrong thing. If you are doing wrong thing, you karam aap dekhenge. It's not me. You have to. I have said tathastu, but you will see the consequences. You will have your own karma. You believe in karma, it's okay. So in the case of religious trust, there is no question of anonymous donation. But in case of partly charitable or partly registered, they say if the donation is received by a charitable trust, anonymous donation section will be applicable. But if the religious trust receives the donation, religious portion, then it is not covered under anonymous donation. Then who will receive under charity? Receive under religious. Stops you if you are partly charitable or partly religious. Let me tell you, 99% cases, religious trust does not get deduction under ATG, doesn't get registration under ATG at all. But we have got, that is a different thing. Now we are coming to section 13 before I take the filing of return. Section 13 talks about, look here, if it is a private religious trust which does not enure benefit to the public, exemption under 11-12 will not be allowed. And if there is a charitable trust created on or after 1st April 1962, this trust cannot be for any religious community, caste or a creed. It cannot be for a particular religious community, caste or a creed. If it is for that, you will not be called a charitable trust. You can take it under religious, but not under charitable trust. Then trust has to apply its income. If there's whatever is left, it has to accumulate under 11-5 mode. That also is there. And I have told you the trust should not apply its income for the benefit of person referred to in 13.3. That is, trustee of the trust, founder of the trust, one who has made a contribution. You cannot make the payment to them, apply for them. But does not matter. We have section 13.2 saying if that transaction has been done at arm's length price, even if you have made payment to the trustee or made payment to the founder or made payment to the relative of the trustee or founder, it does not make any difference, provided that amount which is services rendered, the amount paid is reasonable, or services you had rendered some services to them, the amount charged is market value. That type of a 13.2 is there. So there is no worry. Now coming to, you have to file return under form number 7, and you need to have a registration number. When you file form number 7, please note, you will have to take whether you are filing under 1023C or you are filing under section 12A. You have to tick it under 1112. You have to tick that. Sometimes you come, they don't tick it. If you're taking 1023C, please note you have to attach report under 10BB. And if you are claiming under 1112, please note you have to attach report under 10B and not 10BB. We normally see people committing a mistake, taking 11 and filing 10BB, or taking 1023C, filing 10B is wrong. Next point, it will ask for registration. You will have to file a registration number and then you file a return. You will be levied. If any income is taxable, it will be levied at slab rate, like individual. Same slab rate, it will be taxable. Of course, few incomes where you have misused it or where you don't keep it at 11.5, that will be taxable under at the maximum marginal rate. Otherwise, it is taxable at slab rate. But let me tell you, these are the points which I wanted to tell you. There are many other points, but I know that there will be many queries, many queries. One more thing before I complete, and very important. If your registration is cancelled, or if you modify your registration, don't apply, or you want to dissolve the trust, kindly note, section 115 TD is applicable. Section 115 TD says that if your registration is cancelled and you have not filed an appeal, or you have filed an appeal and you have lost the case, in that case, you will take the market value of all the asset with you, fair market value, deduct the liabilities value. On the balance, you will have to pay tax at the maximum marginal rate if your registration is cancelled. Or you merge with another trust, but that trust is not registered, you're liable to pay 30% of the fair market value of the asset minus liability. Or you want to dissolve, within 1 year of dissolution, you have to donate all the assets and assets to another registered trust. And if you do not donate to another registered trust, all the asset fair market value will be liable to tax under 115 TD. Please be careful that if registration is cancelled, you have a tough time. Or if you change your object and it does not conform to your registration, you will be having a tough time. Somebody said, sir, suppose I want to pay 30%, will those assets belong to me? No, not at all. Even if you have paid 30%, 115 TD, this is not your asset. This is a public at large. It is for public at large. Either donate or the government will take it. You cannot touch it. We have a charity commissioner in all these states. Please, for God's sake, after even 115 TD, where you have paid 30%, don't think those assets will now belong to you. It will belong to trust, but it can never go back to you. It will belong to trust, but it will never go back to you. And two more points I want to tell you. One is, if the charitable trust is not registered or not approved, then if that charitable trust receives any money exceeding 50,000 during the year, it will be fully taxable under section 56, subsection 2, clause 10. Meaning thereby, all unregistered charitable trust or all unregistered and religious trusts for Gurudwara, mosque, temple, church, please note, if you are not registered and if your total donation exceeds 50,000, entire amount without any deduction is taxable under the head income from other sources. Entire amount without any deduction taxable under the head income from other sources. Please note, you will be liable to pay tax under income from other sources. The trust will not get exemption for that amount at all. So all what you call temple, or Gurdwara, churches, mosques, 90% of them are not registered, and they are not aware that on or after 1/4/2017, if you receive donation exceeding 50,000 in aggregate, whether from one person or more than one person, it will be fully taxable under the head income from other sources by under section 56 subsection 2 clause 10. Another point, can a trust donate to another trust? Yes, out of current income. A trust can donate to another trust only out of current income. It cannot donate out of the accumulated income of the past year, that 15% or other. It only can donate current year income to another trust. This is only accumulated income not allowed, and that trust should be registered. May not be same object, but that trust should also be registered. You can donate to another trust. Now, most important point. Although trust can donate current income to another trust, but that donation cannot be with a specific direction that it will form part of the corpus of that trust. People were what do doing? They were left with the money, they donate to their other trust, and it was given for corpus donation. And once it is given for corpus, it is exempt. So they were not supposed to spend it, and you have to give a donation. Now the law says, please note, whether you are under 1023C or you are 1112, you make a donation to trust registered under 1020, approved under 1023C or 1112. You can make a donation, nobody stops you, out of the current income, but it cannot be for corpus of the other trust. If you are donating for their corpus, it will not be treated as your application of income. That will not be treated as your application of income, and you will have to pay tax on that. Donor will have to pay tax. So you cannot donate for corpus to a registered trust or an approved trust under 1023C. It can be only voluntary contribution without specific direction that it can form part of corpus. So that if you donate, that trust will have to apply that income, 85% and 15%. So this is, I have more things also. But now let us go to the questions, because there will be many questions. So let us take up the questions now.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I received many queries on the WhatsApp. I am reading one by one.
Please.
Let's देखते हैं sir कितनी हो पाती है. The first one, sir. One charitable trust running two institutions. One is receiving full grant from the government, and another is collecting fees for treatment from the patient. Total receipt, including the government grant, is more than 5 crores. The trust is registered under section 1023C, but it's not registered under section 12AA.
Don't say registered, approved.
Okay, yes, sir. Approved. In the 1023C,
we have to see total grant should be more than 50%. Total receipt, 50% of the total receipt should be from government. It doesn't make any difference. If they are doing both activity, under one trust, only one return, one PAN number, I just want that 50% grant, whether for education or this, should come from government, more than 50. Otherwise, it will come under 66A, and normal provisions will be applicable.
Thank you, sir. The next one, if a trust is running a hospital and separate books are kept for it, whether only surplus of the hospital or the whole receipts, including fees, can be considered to set apart for that 15%.
My point is, I told you 15% of the gross receipts. Gross receipt will include even now. Please, if this you said, sir, a gross receipt. I said all fee which is received by that, all services rendered. That you are. He is probably talking about a dispensary. Suppose it is an incidental business. In the case of incidental business, the surplus will be taken as gross receipt, or the expenses are there. But otherwise, if it is not incidental, all receipts are taken together. All receipt, 15% of gross receipt. But in the case you are having a dispensary, you are having a separate account of dispensary, then you have to calculate the surplus of the dispensary. That surplus will be treated as gross receipt here, because all expenses to earn that income is already deductible there. That will not be treated as application. Or you could take it total this way, because incidental separate accounts are there, so only surplus to be taken. But donation will be included, not the corpus donation. voluntary contribution without a special
Voluntary
direction.
contribution,
50% of that.
Thank you, sir. The next one. Registered charitable trust, that is 12AA, they are having the hall, Bhavan, and they are getting the rent, rupees 3 crores per year.
Registered for what purpose? I just want to know. Is it object of general public utility, or it is education, or it is medical, or it is preservation of environment, or it is for yoga? If these are activities, then this will be called incidental activity. If it is business, otherwise it is rent from house property. And rent from house property, a trust can do. But he is doing business. Hall is given on rent, or hall is given for commercial activity. If he is doing the commercial activity, then advancement of general. But if it is given a property on rent, it is income from house property. That's why it is not incidental business.
That was not specified in the question. The next one.
Correct. That's our problem. That's the problem.
Yes, sir. The next one. The whether charitable trust can claim indexation benefit and the exemption benefit.
No. Let me tell you very clearly. Charitable, there is a confusion which is already there. Suppose the charitable trust, I'm taking you, having rent from house property, and it is not claiming exemption. Can it claim 30%? When you pay tax, it is different thing. But when you apply the income, it is a commercial income which is to be applied. And in the case of a commercial income, there is no indexation. No, there is absolutely, if you have to pay tax, then you could have taken indexation benefit. But if you don't have to pay tax, you have to apply this income of capital gain and like 85-15. In that case, please, no question of any indexation. No, it is income to be computed in commercial sense. And in commercial sense, there is no question of any indexation. Indexation is only under Income Tax Act, not under Income Tax. So please be careful. When you pay tax, it is a different thing. When you don't pay tax, you can have exemption. It is like that. Achha, you have given me, I can read also. You can give me that, I can read also. Registered charitable under 12A having hall and regularly giving on rent and charge rent. This is business. Regularly giving on rent means it is a business activity. Please note, and it is a business activity, a trade or commerce. But I again telling you, even if it is trade or commerce, tell me one thing, whether it is for which activity? Which activity? If it is religious trust, there is absolutely no problem. If it is charitable trust, and if it's doing only education, medical, EA, except advancement of general, also there is no problem. No problem. There is no problem. Next.
It depends upon the activity, yes, sir.
Correct.
The next one is, sir, if capital asset acquired out of the borrowed fund cannot be said that application more than the.
Some questions on this
No,
also, and we have compiled it, and we are running presentation of these also. So we should take couple of those from the slides also. Yes, you can go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Listen, bhai. Yeah.
Sir, this explanation concept, access application concept has come only recently, and that too is not agreeable. But what I'm trying to explain, that loan is not an income. So you don't have to apply that loan. It's not an income. Only you have to claim exemption of the income. Now you won't say it is access application. Or that is only from next year, my dear. That is Supreme Court judgment. Still form is not there. Then what will you do? Then you treat it as only application 1 year. And when you repay the loan, then it will be treated as application. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
The
sir.
next, if any trust is unregistered.
Sunil bhai, there is a slide which is going on, and where I have
This is already done. You
Okay.
give me a question, I will read out.
yes,
This
is
is
already done.
This is done.
Give me another question, I will
Yes.
I will read out. Can a trust make an application for registration at 12A for previous year 1920 in the light of extension up to 30th June? My dear, the last date for making application was, this is not the last day. You have to apply before, it's not the last day for making an application for registration. The registration has to be done before the end of the previous year. And now you are saying, I will do only on the last day. I will not do this way. Probably they may say no, but you can try. But I'm telling you, 31st March you have applied. Again, it will be provisional registration. But if it is an extension, you are saying under that, because there was no last date of filing. You had to file in the beginning also. You could file any time. But if you want a registration for next year, you had to do that. You don't want to registration for next year. Why should I do that? There was no last date. That does that if you want registration for an assessment year, then you have to make an application before the completion of the previous year, before the end of the previous year, relevant to that assessment year. But how do I know? You don't want to take. That's why you have not applied. Why should I give you extension of this nature? I think they will not give you extension of this nature. But you can always try.
Thank you, sir. The next one, if any trust is not registered under section 12AA, whether corpus donation will be taxable and
Which will be taxable?
corpus donation.
Anything, corpus or non-corpus, corporation is allowed under 11(1)(d) when only you are registered. Or corpus will be allowed under 1023C when only you are approved. Corpus or non-corpus, if you are not registered, if you are not approved, please note, entire amount exceeding 50 lakh shall be taxable. Entire amount will be taxable if it exceeds 50,000.
The expenses would be allowed in that case, sir.
Absolutely no. Under income from other sources, no expense is allowed. For donation, you don't incur any expenses. No. If donation, no. If it is other income, that's a different thing. If it is a consideration without consideration, sum of money received without consideration, it is a donation. For that, no expense allowed.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Sir, the next question is
The next one is
on the screen itself, whether institution wholly and substantially financed by government grant and not required to get approval under section 1023C will have to apply for registration under section 12AB.
No. You are covered under 1023C, 3IAB, 3IAC, 3IAD, and 3IAE. 1 crore, less than 1 crore. Or government, no need of any approval under 1023C. Only filing of return. Only filing return, no need of any approval. But wait, the moment it is less than 50%, you need approval for that. And that's why you will have to apply 1 month before. And how will you apply 1 month before? That will be a problem.
So
thank you,
Next
sir.
point.
The next one is, can a charitable trust donate to section 8 company is incorporated?
Section 8 company, charitable trusts are covered under 3. One is Section 8 company. Number 2 is society registered under Society Registration Act. And third is trust registered under trust which are registered. But these are the 3 constitution of a trust, which says trust or other obligation. Section 8 is also a charitable trust, and a charitable trust also a charitable trust. And society registered is also a charitable trust. Next question: charitable trust registered with assistant charity commissioner. Subsequently, in the second year, it applied for 12-year registration. However, the charitable trust get the benefit of basic exemption limited to individual, since it is surplus from such charitable activity for that year is say 2 lakh. My dear, because you are in a charity, and if you are able to prove that it is charity, then the exemption will be there up to 2,50,000, because AOP get an exemption for like slab rate. But you must be a registered one, then you will get registration if it is less than 250.
Sunil bhai, you can take next.
Next one.
Sukhada Bhushan.
हाँ, next question ले लो तुम्हारी जोड़ो है.
Next question.
Sir, in case an educational society registered under section 12, but annual receipt is much below 1 crore, what should be done for re-registration? Registration under section 12 or approval under section 1023C?
I told you, if it is less than 1 crore, you could go under 1023C without approval, without registration. But if you are registered only 12A, either surrender 12AA, otherwise you will have to file return. Because 12A registration is there. You can't take an alternative now, because the rule is either 1023C or 12AA. Surrender your 12AA, then you can go to 1023C if you are less than 1 crore.
Sir, the next question is on screen. If a trust is running a hospital and separate books
If
are
a trust is running a hospital and separate books are kept for it, whether only surplus, I don't understand why separate book for a hospital. What is the need? Hospital is education, a medical hospital. It is all gross receipt 15%, my dear. Gone are the days I told you when it is net income. It's not net income. It is gross receipt of the hospital. Why are you writing the books of account separate? It has to be a charitable trust, has to maintain books of account. I told you separate books account only when it is commercial activity, incidental to the attainment of the objective of the trust. If it is doing hospital activity, rendering service to the patient, then what is the problem? It's only when there is a dispensary, then there is a problem. But if you are treating the patient and you are giving medicine along with the patient and charging for that bill, then it is your gross receipt.
Yes, Nilvi, next.
Gross receipt 15%.
Yes. The next question is, do Section 13 of Income Tax Act apply to loan received from trustees and repaid?
Loan you can receive from anybody. You can't give loan, you can't give benefit. But if you have received a loan from your relative or anybody, let me tell you, if you are paying interest, that should be at market rate, arm length. If you are not paying interest, there is no problem. But if you are paying interest because interest is payable to a relative, that should be arm length price. That should be reasonable amount. Otherwise, it will not be treated as application of income, loan, interest. Interest will not be treated as application of income.
Sir, next
Tell me.
question is,
Next.
educational trust have option to claim
So
exemption.
education trust have option to claim exemption under 11 or 1023C, or it is complete compulsory. No option. But I have told you, Mister, I have told you, now you have to apply either under 1023C or under 11. You cannot have both. You cannot have both. Earlier you could have both and you could go anywhere. Now under I12AA, apply under 12AB or under 1023C, you cannot have. Approval not possible from 1st April 2020.
So the next question is, if any trust gives a donation to another registered trust, which is allowed, but that is out of the earlier accumulation, not from the current income.
No, you cannot donate unless at the time of dissolution is a different thing. Otherwise, out of the current income, you can donate to another trust that will be treated as application of income. You cannot donate to another trust out of the accumulated income. Not possible. Only current income. Current income. And that too, when you are donating, you cannot donate for its corpus. You cannot donate for corpus. Next question. What if any trust does not want to apply fresh as the trust is inactive since long? By not applying will get cancelled automatically, or to cancel close down separately. It will be deregistered. But if you have assets there, the problem will arise because that asset does not belong to you, my dear. Those assets do not belong to you. You will have to donate that to the other. You have to dissolve your trust. Otherwise, that asset, charity commissioner will come into picture. They say you cannot touch those assets if you don't want to apply.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The next question is, if a charitable trust is selling books and religious goods to promote its object, it is a religious trust, then in such
Religious trust can do. Religious can do incidental activity for attainment objective of trust. अरे वो तो मंदिर के पास दुकान भी होती है, प्रसाद भी बेचते हैं, कोई बात नहीं. Religious trust can do. It's only charitable trust which cannot do activity more than 20 registered under advancement of object of general public utility. Trust is not registered 12A. Trust is not registered at 12A. Had gross receipt of 1 lakh for 1920 and expenses of 30,000. What is this gross receipt? Is it donation without consideration? If it is donation without consideration, entire 1 lakh is taxable. Tell me what is this? But of course, they get exemption up to 2,50,000 if it is there. AOP. If it is a charitable trust. If it is registered charitable, 250 exemption, but 1 lakh, if it is a what you call without consideration, it will be income. It will be income. No expense allowed.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what is the difference between the corpus fund versus the earmark fund?
corpus fund need not be spent. There are two types of corpus. One is called specific corpus. The another is called a general corpus. Specific corpus means you have been given for a specific purpose. Let's say construction of building. Let's say for purchase of sports goods. These are specific. General corpus, you have been given freedom to do whatever you like. It is like capital fund. Whatever you want to do with that, no question will be asked. But specific corpus and general corpus are both called corpus for donation. Trust is registered with charity commissioner but not registered with a filed return of income, but demand is raised. Definitely demand will be raised. Or it will be charged under MMR because you must have filed form 5. And if you have filed form 7, you have not filed 7. So when you filed form 5, it is chargeable at 30%, number 1. And number 2, if you have received 50,000 without consideration, it is taxable under other sources.
सर वो रिलीजियस बुक्स वगैरह ट्रस्ट कर सकते हैं तो 15% था, मतलब किसका देना है, ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट का,
ग्रॉस रिसीट का? अरे देखिए, जो ग्रॉस रिसीट का देना है, लेकिन जो बिजनेस एक्टिविटी है उसके सेपरेट अकाउंट बनाकर उसका सरप्लस लेना है इधर ग्रॉस रिसीट।
यस सर,
जो बिजनेस एक्टिविटी है उसका सरप्लस लेना है, बाकी सारे ग्रॉस रिसीट।
Sir, bill repayment of
next is running a school and has 3 separate registration.
Will repayment of principal amount loan be treated as application? Certainly. Loan, not only repayment of principal amount, but also the interest be treated as application of income. If interest, if any, paid on this amount. Next.
Yeah, a trust is running a school and has 3 separate registration from education board. That is maybe for 1 to 7 standard, 8 to 10, and another 11, 12. Can they claim limit of 1 crore for each separate registration with education?
Yes, there is an umbrella. See, umbrella. If you are filing a return for the trust and they are all under one, then to you cannot. But if you file return separately and have a separate PAN number of each, separate charter of each, then each one will get 1 crore rupee. Each one will get. Next point.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Rather, a judgment has come where you have filed one return, then also each one has got 1 crore. Next point.
The next question is
in case of newly established trust during middle of the year, then for new provisional registration 12B, can 1 month prior to the construction? My dear, 1 month will be because your previous year will start when you are newly set up. So from 1 month before that, commencement of your previous year. The first previous year will not start from 1st April because when you are starting from 1st of September, the first previous year will be September to March. If you start the trust from 1st of January, the first previous will be January to March. For that, it's not a February. It is depending upon if you are existing trust, then it is February. If it is a new trust, the first previous year can be less than 12 months. Everyone knows. Next.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, charitable trust is unregistered since inception and having many assets, negative income for many years. Now they want to register. So what will be the tax implication for the earlier negative?
The tax implication is they may ask you to file return for the last 6 years, pay tax on that because it was unregistered. But if it is religious trust, most of the time they give you the benefit. They don't ask for that because religious is very sentimental. Otherwise, they can ask the reassessment, income escaping assessment for 6 years.
147 will follow, yeah.
Yes, 147 for 6 years. Tax on anonymous is also applicable on religious trust. No, I told you. Religious trust, there is no question of anonymous donation in case of religious trust. They normally get anonymous donation. Next.
The next question is, sir, in the case of delay or the non-submission of Form 10B, the CBD circular that delay should be condoned. Our department has issuance not condone delay. Now appeal can be filed for such rejection.
Who said delay should be condoned? Delay cannot be condoned. You have to pay penalty. No, delay. You are not. You have to file their return along with 10B. Otherwise, exemption will not be allowed. delay of filing. Please note 139(4)(a), you can file belated return. There is a judgment there, that is up to 31st March. Automatically, their audit report will also be filed along with that. But please note, Form 10 of 11(2) and Form 9(a) cannot be filed after due date under 139(1).
Sir, the next is on screen.
What is in case where name of the trust is not listed on the existing list of exempted institution? What is to be done? You must be having your name to appear. I told you, what is the question of name? Where is exempted institution name? Which section is talking about? Name of the trust is not listed on an existing institution. I have not understood the question. Is this statement filing mandatory only for ATG approved institution? Yes, ATG. So far ATG. Gradually it will come for others. It is for ATG that you have to file that statement, which is yet to be notified, and also period to be notified. Next.
Sir, whether asset purchased out of the corpus donation, that will amount to the application.
Can't we? Because you're not income. You have already taken corpus as exemption. So where is the application? Buying an asset for is not an application then. It's only income is to be applied. And corpus is not an income. It's exempt. People are now checking the list. And if the name does not appear, they deny to give. What a list you are giving here. Client approaches us for solution for name to appear. I told you, no, he's in next year, not here. It is for the next year. I don't know. This question, I either put that man on the screen that I can ask him, or ask him to call me.
Sure,
I'll explain him.
We'll do that.
To Section 13 of Income Tax that applied to loan receipt from trustee and repaid. I told you it does not.
Yes, that is taken care of.
Benefit to the trust. Benefit उसको होना चाहिए assessee को. Loan देकर where is the benefit to the trustee? If the interest is more, then only.
Sir, the registered.
The benefit of Section 4 applied to medical store run by hospitals allowed 11(4). It's not 11(4), 11(4)(a). It's not 11(4), 11(4)(a).
Sir, the registered trust under Section 12AA, whether they can give donation, corpus donation from their corpus to another charitable trust.
Sir, I told you corpus donation you cannot give because it is exempt to your hand, and then if you give, then it will become taxable in their hand. They will apply the normal corpus donation is not meant for donation. It is not meant for donation. Corpus donation is for your capital fund. It is a corpus. Normally, donations are not given out of corpus fund. Should not be given out of corpus fund. But yes, the law is silent on that. But technically, corpus donation is your money. You cannot give to others. And once corpus donation is more than 1 year old, otherwise it becomes accumulated. And accumulated you cannot do. Accumulated you cannot do. And if there is a specific corpus donation, then it is only for specific purpose. You otherwise cannot do. Tell me.
So it has to be spent by the trust only.
Yeah. Yes. It may not be spent also. It can be kept in bank. You may buy asset with that. It is your choice. If a new trust applies for new registration and 12AB in financial B, will it get registration from the date of application or from April 21? In second case, how this trust will get benefit of 11 in first year? My dear, because the law was passed in this year only in the month of March, and 1 month was month of February. Probably for this year, the concession will be given to you. From next year, you will have to apply 1 month before.
Sir, as there are so many questions, and I guess due to paucity of time, we have collated all those questions. We will send it to you, and we will compile it and we will distribute it to all the participants.
Please tell them to send on my email. I will not take direct call, and please give their telephone number. I don't reply on email because then I keep on getting the same clarification again and again from the same person. If this happens, what will happen? If this happens, what will happen?
Sir,
I will make it happen. I'll make a call to him and he can discuss anything on the call.
Done, sir. Done.
I will not reply on email. So if your telephone number is there, mobile, I'll call you whenever I find convenient time. But Don't expect a reply on email, because when I reply on email, I keep getting the question from the same person again and again relating to the same problem.
Yes, sir. So now,
Last question, Bishan bhai.
yes, please.
Bishan bhai, last question पूछ लिया, પછી conclude करिए.
हाँ जी, पूछिए.
Last question. Return file in time along with the Form 10B, but there was a technical mistake and the Form 10B was uploaded not within the due date, it was uploaded late, sir. So, what can be the
Sir,
consequences?
this all depends. Technical mistake, we are not concerned. You know, that problem is go for a relief or to a CVDT. They normally don't will give a relief. How do you say technical mistake? How do I know what kind of a mistake is this? You know, sometimes what happens is you are not able to file return, some technical mistake. They said if you even if filed after 12 o'clock, we will accept it. There are certain cases which are there. But let me tell you, technical mistake, I don't know what kind of a mistake is this, but you can always take a condonation under 119 subsection 2 by going to CBDT or Commissioner of Income Tax.
Sir,
Thank you very much, sir.
thank you very
Welcome.
much. As we look ahead into the 21st century, leaders will be those who empower others. Sir, you are the true example. You are the true legend for all of us. We are fortunate that you have deliberate and we request you to shower your knowledge and love on us continuously. On behalf of the Ahmedabad branch, we are thankful to you, sir. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. That is what Mother Teresa says. And all the participants evolved in such situation, participated here. More than 900 participants were there. I am thankful to all of those participants, and also we are not a team because we are work together, but we are a team because we respect, trust and care for each other. Thanks to all the branches of ICAI for joining hands together. With these words, we are thankful, and sir, from my bottom of my heart, thankful to you. Please do
All the
follow.
best. Take care. Please take care.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank
healthy.
you very much, sir.
Thank you.
See you
Stay
again, sir.
healthy.
Thank you.
Take care. Do some exercise every day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we are ending, friends, this webinar here, and request you to join for tomorrow's webinar on time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tomorrow we have at 4 p.m.
Yes, 4 p.m. So kindly request all to join by 3:45. Thank you.